Cyber Reapers. Hello, Cyber Reapers. So, tonight I decided, since I'm catching up on reading this week, I'm not doing a book review for this week, but I noticed that this week specifically, this Thursday, so April 10th, is, at least for the United States, it's National Support a Young Writer Day. I believe that's the full title. And I kind of am taking a little inspiration from that because I'm in the midst of, well, I guess I have most of the publishing stuff done now. My book is just about set for pre-order, and the cover reveal is happening this month as well, April 19th specifically. And yeah, so that's exciting. And I'm just now starting really the marketing stuff. Don't worry, I won't bombard you with stuff about my book on here, but I might mention it every once in a while just because it's so much of my work and time is going into it. But yeah, I have a book coming out July. If you like young adult futuristic thrillers, a little bit of sci-fi, a little bit of truth or dare, and yeah, fun stuff. That's coming out in July. But as I'm like starting to get into marketing and stuff, it's a lot of work. I mean, I knew it going in, it would be a lot of work, but it's a lot of work. So to anybody who's thinking about indie publishing or self-publishing, I highly encourage that you do it. And there are so many different ways that you can. And there's not really there's not like a one way to do it, you know. There are ways that you can set your book up for as much awareness as you can, like trying to get it into libraries and bookstores and stuff, but you can also just like release it into the world for the sake of it's just releasing a part of yourself and your writing and your creativity and your joy. So yeah, I highly encourage that you do it. Or if you want to go into traditional publishing, I do not personally have experience with it, and I do not personally want to traditional publish. Is that a verb now? I don't personally want to get into traditional publishing just because of reasons that I'm not going to talk about, but it's like, I'm not going to discourage you from it either, because like there's a lot of support and a lot of wonderful things that publishers can do for authors, a lot of really cool opportunities and things that publishing houses provide. So that's an awesome path too if you're up for the query trenches and everything, or submitting directly. So I just wanted to kind of make this video as a way of like, if you are in the writing process, sometimes the writing process gets really hard. And I mean, I'm not here to really give advice. I'm here to give reassurance and to give validation and to just kind of, what's the word? Affirmation. To give affirmations, maybe, is kind of in support, because while this is my first time going through the indie publishing process with this book, it is not my first book that I ever wrote, and in fact I've written 10 novels, so it's at least over 1 million words by now, I'm pretty sure. Because yeah, some novels I really overwrote back when I first started writing, and then my novels now are closer to like 85 to 95,000 words. I tend to get them around there. My point is, though, I've written a lot, and it's taken several years to kind of get used to my writing process and to craft books the way that I want to and the way that feels good, or the most good to me. But it took me a long time. So if you are a writer and you're not at the publishing process yet, or you're don't even have to be. You can completely just write for yourself. You do not have to ever share your writing if you do not want to. Do not feel obligated to just because there are other people who do. But I'm just kind of here to say stuff like well, like that. And that's just kind of what I want to do today, I think, because I think I could have really needed to hear early on some assurances of just that I'm doing okay, you know, and that it's normal to feel like this is difficult, you know, especially if you're like tackling your first book or your first few books, you know, because the actual like figuring out how you personally want to write is difficult in of itself. Like, not even talking about literally getting words onto the page, or editing or anything like that, just literally, like, do you want to plot the entire book and do all the world building and all the tiny details and everything before you start or as you go? Or do you even, like, not want to do it at all and you're just like, there are plot holes, but you know what, I'll fix them later. Like, there are so many different ways that you can write, and there's no one right way to do it. In fact, I don't think there's any right way to do it. So, yeah, however you want to write, you write, okay? And I don't know how involved you are on, like, social media where there are, you know, there's a lot of different opinions out there on, like, what is good writing, what is bad writing, and really just write what you want to write. I'm fumbling the phrase a bit. Write what you want to write. There we go. Just because you're gonna spend so much time on it anyway, even if you decide you just want to write a first draft and then never look at it again, that's still a lot of time that you're spending on that one project. And also, I'm talking kind of vaguely, but also I keep talking about like novels and books. The same goes for like if you write short stories or novellas, novelettes, really just any kind of writing. It takes a while to figure out how you want to write, and sometimes with like a lot of opinions online, it can seem a little daunting and overwhelming of like, oh, I want to write this genre, but like it seems like I'm writing something that's a little too different from what people expect. And here's the thing, like, people like things that are different than what they expect. There are also plenty of cases where people like things that they do expect, but that's where marketing comes in, where you try to set expectations to the reader, and that way readers can essentially go, oh, okay, so this is the kind of thing I like, great, or oh, this sounds really different, really cool, I might check it out, nice, you know. But regardless, like, don't feel like you have to be limited on what you write. And I'm just realizing I'm kind of giving advice. I didn't mean to. I meant that more as an affirmation of you know, write what you want to write. Even if you're doubting yourself right now, feeling like, is there really an audience for this? Or do I really want to write this? Well, I mean, if you don't want to write it, then don't write it. But if you do want to write it, then, you know, just keep going. And I think you'll find a lot of satisfaction in doing it and completing whatever story it is that you feel like you want to tell. And if you feel like sharing that story, I guarantee you there is an audience out there. There are so many different stories out there, and it's a shame that it takes a while to find an audience if you're looking for one. But I will say that, like, there is an audience for everything. Really everything. Even the stuff that you think is, like, not your thing and you don't understand how, like, other people might be into it or interested in it. But you're like, alright, that's cool if you are. I don't get it. there's an audience for that. And same thing, there is an audience. I mean, you have favorite things. You have favorite books. You have favorite movies, favorite music, unless you don't like movies or music or books for some reason. But I imagine if you're here, you at least like books. So, anyway, or stories, So I just kind of want to say, yeah, just sometimes it helps to imagine your favorite book, and imagine that your favorite author had to go through all of this too, of going through all the writing and experiencing a bit of self-doubt probably, and doubt about the story maybe, and yeah, so it's, I hope you don't let doubt hold you back, because I'm sure you have a really amazing story to tell. Pretty much everybody does. And sometimes it comes out through just conversation, talking to people. Sometimes it comes out through writing, through song, however you want to express your creativity. And yeah, so I just hope that you share your story if you feel like sharing it, and if you don't feel like sharing it and you just want to write it for yourself, that's also perfectly wonderful. And I hope, however you choose to write your story or share your story, that you do choose to keep going with it, if you feel like it is a good thing, a good thing for you mentally, physically, all of that. For me, I feel like I don't usually doubt the story itself. For me, if I'm writing a book, I'm usually pretty set on completing that story at some point, but I definitely do feel doubt on other people finding enjoyment in it, and me going, oh, is this, especially my book coming out, for the longest while, I didn't call it a thriller in my head, just because I thought, well, thrillers are supposed to be really terrifying, and I just I didn't feel like my own work was good enough in the eyes of other people to call it a thriller, even though it is actually within the genre, based on it checks off the certain things. Now, it is technically a genre bend. It is set in the future, so there are science fiction elements that need to be set up, and as a result, the pace at the beginning is a little bit different than, say, a contemporary thriller. But I keep going through this kind of stuff in my head and going, is this what readers are expecting? Does this match up, or am I just self-doubt about if my book is good enough, if it is thriller enough to be called a thriller, or if it is, just good enough to be marketed. And really, I do think there's a lot of value in it that I am now missing, because I've just read it over 100 times, and it just all looks like words now. And I mean that in a way of you stare at a word for long enough and it starts to lose its meaning. That thing. That's kind of the whole book for me right now, just in this exact moment, because I've read it so many times recently. But I know, though, that once I start talking about it with somebody, the magic comes back of me having so much self-assurance in the book. And I'm not thinking it's the best book ever, of course not. My current writing is already better than this book. But that's exciting, because it means my future writing is going to be even more me, and that's amazing, I guess that's another little mini thing to say there is, to not worry about your writing being the best, because your writing is wonderful, don't get me wrong, but I think the more that you practice, the more you will find your voice, and the more efficient you'll feel your writing process becomes in general. And also, it becomes more fun, I think, over time as you find more of your voice and you're able to, it's basically you're getting better at your craft, right? So, but everybody has to start somewhere, and I think sometimes I hear writers get kind of they get demotivated because of that, because they hear, oh, I gotta write like so many books in order to get good or whatever. And honestly, I think you can write a first book and get that book published, whether that's you want to do indie publishing or traditional publishing, whatever. It's just the first draft is something you gotta get through in order to have like words on a page, something to work with. And from there, that's where editing comes in. That's where you really you keep, what is it about a diamond? Anyway, let's just say your draft is eventually going to become a diamond. You just gotta keep beating at it, and polish it, pretend that metaphor was actually articulated well. Anyway, I think you get what I was saying, though. The first draft is not going to be your finished diamond, You just gotta keep going with it. So, but when I say, like, there is a lot of work that goes into that, but I hope you don't feel intimidated by that amount of work, because you're pouring your heart and soul into this project, and I think it will be rewarding to keep going with it. I think I already kind of touched on that earlier, but just to reiterate, the effort is worth it, I think, to create a book that you really like, or to create a short story, a story. Yeah, so I had a train of thought there that I lost. Yeah, it's kind of nice to get these thoughts out, especially now as I'm going into marketing phase of a book and I'm pretty much done. I mean, the book is set as it is, unless an ARC reader points out like a glaring typo that I just completely missed after 100 edits, it's pretty much, the book is pretty much set. Yeah. And I think just eventually you do have to stop, and I've heard from a lot of published authors that that's kind of a difficult thing to do. You just have to eventually say, alright, I gotta stop I gotta stop editing, because you're always gonna find something as you read your book with a fresh set of eyes or fresh perspective. You're always gonna want to edit more, and it's not necessarily typos, but even just the way phrasing, the words you choose, stuff like that. And I found myself doing that quite a bit. What was it, a couple months ago, I think, on like some of the final proofreads of my book, and it helped to keep in mind a lot of the published authors saying there's a point where you just gotta let it go. So yeah, just something to keep in mind. Yeah. And what else? Because yeah, I'm sure there's a lot on my mind in relation to writing, and yeah, I guess just trying to think if there's anything else that I haven't touched on. Watch, this is like the middle of the video and I spew out so many other things. I could just keep this video short, but if you've seen my other videos on the channel, you probably know that I tend to talk a lot. Especially, it's a very comforting space. So kind of, I feel like not moving when I'm like among all the stuffed animals and I have my little station set up here to record, getting a little meta maybe. But, yeah, I hope though that, regardless of what you're writing, you keep going, you know? And if you feel ever like there's like imposter syndrome, I would recommend looking up your favorite author and seeing if there's more you can learn about them and their process of writing. Because yeah, I think I'm trying to think of an example. My favorite author is S.J. Kincaid. She's amazing. She wrote, I first found her from the Insignia series, and then she wrote the Diabolic series, and I love both. Both are sci-fi. And yeah, she was really, like, her books got me into sci-fi, both reading and writing, and really the reason I wanted to become an author. And so yeah, and with her, I remember, I think she said somewhere that she didn't. It was 7 books. I think she wrote 7 books before landing on the one Insignia, I think, that ended up being published. Just 7 novels kind of stuck out to me as like, oh wow, that it takes a while to land on a story that you feel like you're ready to like release to the world, right? And it was the same for me. I think it was about 7 or 8 books. I think When Truth Cowers was that's the book I'm publishing in July. That was somewhere around my 8th book, I think, that I wrote completely. I'm not counting the first, not the ones I haven't completed. Yeah, I think it was about 8 or so, because since then I've written 2 or 3 since, so yeah, so it would be 7 or 8. And I think that was really when I started tightening my I was becoming more efficient with my writing process. I knew exactly like about how much I needed to do of planning before getting into the book. I knew about how long the chapters needed to be. I knew about the pacing of the novel, where I wanted everything to go. And even though I didn't have everything exactly figured out going into my most recent novels, I still knew enough to be able to like keep charging forward. So I've really hit like my stride in writing, I think, but it took until after When Truth Cowers to do that. So I'm glad that I had that like precedent in mind, though, of like my favorite author, having written so many drafts, like complete full novel drafts, because I think I needed to get in my head of like, the first thing you write isn't necessarily going to be what you release into the world initially, you know? And it doesn't have to be. Now, of course it can. I'm not saying it can't be. But for me personally, it took a lot of time for me. So, I mean, really several years. Because, I mean, I was 11 when I first started to, like, try to take on a full book. And no, I did not. Again, I didn't finish that one. Ooh, what year did I first finish my first book? I think 7th or 8th grade. So like 3 to 4 years after I first attempted my first one. So okay. And yeah, how old am I now? I just had my birthday, sorry, and it always takes me like a minute to switch over, especially because I have DID, so memory funniness. Okay, yeah, so, alright. 20s. I'm in my lower 20s. Early 20s. I meant to say early 20s, lower 20s. I am a lower 20. Anyway. Yeah, so. And also, on the note of like lower 20, you do not have to be a certain age to be an author. You do not have to be legally an adult to be an author. You can be a teenage author if you want. You can also, like, there's no certain time you have to, like, you're not missing an opportunity if you don't publish in your 20s or 30s or whatever, you know? Like, there are authors of all kinds of ages, and there are so many experiences to be experienced. And really, just as I grow older, I become so different than how I was a year ago, to where I can't even imagine how I'm going to be in my 30s, 40s, 50s. Like, I'm going to learn so much. I'm so excited. And so, like, I very much have it in my head that like, older people have so many experiences. I mean, seriously, talk to somebody about their life, and there's so much to learn about people. And anyway, I love writing because of just depicting people. I love that so much, to showcase so many different types of experiences. But all this to say is that I really admire older people who get into writing, you know? Like, you're publishing your first book at 50, amazing, that's awesome. You're publishing your first book at 16, wow, like, that's impressive ambition, you know? Like, you do not have to be a certain age to write or to publish or anything like that. You are creative at any age, and I hope you know that, because I think I've seen some posts of people being kind of concerned about, like, oh, can I break into the market being like in my 40s? And I'm like, yes, you most definitely can. There are so many different ages of authors who I admire. So yeah. Also, if you ever lose, or if you feel like you're in like a slump, like a writing slump, I recommend just consuming more media, especially books, because I think that really, I mean, for me, that really helps me with getting back my inspiration. Especially if I try out something like really new, then I start to go, oh wow, what if I just incorporate that into my writing a little bit? When I don't say copy, I'm not saying that. I'm saying, like, when I was writing When Truth Cowers, initially it was going to be just about a game show centered around Truth or Dare, and the plot was going to be around the drama of what goes on the show, of like the characters accepting truths and dares, and lots of social high stakes, which could have been also a very interesting story because social high stakes, when pulled off, are really nicely well done. But at some point during the writing process, like near pretty the beginning, I'd gone with a friend to go see Scream 6, and that has changed my life. So I am not honestly that much of a horror movie fan. I am a fan of Halloween the holiday, so as a result I sort of became a fan of Halloween the movie, just the first one. I haven't seen the other ones, to be honest. But yeah, so I don't really like stories that are centered around gore. I don't really like slashers in general. However, I am a fan of clever writing, clever plot, and especially like high stakes, and exploring what humanity does, or humans do, when they are in a very heightened state of needing to survive. And so watching Scream 6 was like, oh wow, this is really new to me, but I'm curious to know more. So that resulted in me watching so many commentaries on the Scream franchise, so much so that I actually knew so much about the movies before watching them. It helps with horror movies for me to know what I'm getting into before I watch it. I know it somewhat ruins the surprises, but it just made me feel better. And even while watching the movie, seeing it all pieced together, it was like, oh wow, this is, like, it still felt like a really good experience. Experiencing the story and everything, even with knowing all of the major plot points going into it. And finally, I got to see them on Netflix, so I didn't have access to them but until they were put on a streaming service I had, so. Except the fourth one, I have yet to see the fourth one, because it never pops up anywhere. I'm like going, there's a character from the fourth one that appears in the sixth one. Can you please give me the fourth one so I can watch that? Again, I know the plot points, but I still want to see it. Yeah. That was a tangent, but what I mean to say there is, you can tell from my passion, it changed quite a bit of, like, it added a new franchise to my head, a new fandom, a new everything, new music because of the soundtrack. I love Demi Lovato's Still Alive, and in my head, I'm sorry, I forget the artist, I'll probably put it somewhere. But yeah, the soundtrack, the visuals, the themes, like, there's so much to it of, like, in particular, well, in like the initial trilogy, where it was leading up to with, like, the third one, no spoilers, I'm just saying, in terms of themes revolving around, the abuse that goes on in cinema, in like the making of cinema in Hollywood, and all the major stuff like that. I'm not explaining it that well right now, I'm sorry, I didn't expect to talk about the themes of the Scream franchise today, but here we are, because I guess I went on this tangent and so I'm finishing it. Not just that, but how media treats survivors of really horrible incidents, and how people profit off of pain, and just there's so much to build off of there that, I mean, I think a lot of people just kind of write it off as a franchise that's like, it's a slasher film, it's not meant to be a lot of commentary, but if you watch it, the characters know that they are in this movie. I mean, they don't know, but they are aware of the tropes, they are aware of social commentary, and they comment on movies like the movie that they are in, and it creates a really interesting loop there of discussion, both within the film and outside of it. All of that got into my head, and I essentially went, oh wow, what if I incorporated this into this game show, this truth or dare game show aesthetic thing? What if I incorporated all those themes and also threw in, murder plot, and they're all trapped on this game show? So that's where this story really went as a result. The story that's coming out in July. I said I wouldn't talk about it much, but here we are. I do like talking about it, so if you ask me about it, I will talk. No worries though, you don't have to. What I mean to say with all that is, you never really know where your inspiration is going to come from. I say don't wait for inspiration though, just kind of, I mean, if it comes to you, that's amazing, but like, just getting words on a page is really important, and I think you'll find that if you just sit down to write, I think you'll find that the inspiration is already there in you, from media that you've already been consuming, whether it's movies or books or music or whatever, even the things that are around you. I get inspiration from my clothes, like just and colors, so anything can really be inspiration, and you kind of absorb it and it goes into your writing, right? So I think if you just sit down to right, and like just keep going at it, you'll find that you already were inspired by things and you just didn't necessarily notice. Or you might get like hit in the head and just kind of, not literally, sorry, I mean it may feel like you were hit in the head with inspiration of like, after I watched Scream 6, I just kept mulling it over in my head of like, oh wow, I can't stop thinking about what this movie is saying. And I know it's a little silly, I watched Scream 6 without any context of Scream 5, even though it's literally the sequel that comes right after it, or requel, whatever you want to call it. But it's okay, I'm caught up now. Yeah, and I still enjoyed the movie even without the context, so there's that. But yeah, inspiration comes from all over the place. So if you ever feel like you're kind of stuck, I would recommend just trying something new, or going, learning about something outside of your comfort zone, I guess. For me, it was learning about the Scream franchise completely. Ended up giving me a whole new batch of themes to explore. And yeah. And honestly, yeah, just trying new things is just in general good. I like it. But I think it really helps for writing new experiences and finding that you have more to say than you think you do. Or maybe you know you have a lot to say, like me, because I'm talking a lot. But regardless, everybody has something to say. So, and speaking of that, if you happen to be stumbling across this and you are considering writing, but you haven't really like put a lot of time into it, or you just don't really know where to start or how to start, then, I mean, I'm not going to give you a bunch of advice right now on like how to start literally, because honestly that's kind of a hard thing to answer beyond a vague answer of me saying just try to write. In addition, reading really helps, because it kind of gives you examples of what to expect, kind of in the formatting of a story structure, and how like the arc of a plot goes, you know. And especially if you find that you are attached to a certain genre or a certain trope or something, I would recommend seeking out fiction, or nonfiction. You want to write a nonfiction, go for that too. And for that case, I would say seek out like topics that you wanna explore writing about. Just seek out stuff that is related to kind of what you're interested in, so that way you can see what is already out there, and you have a little more of an example set in your head of like, okay, so this is something that exists. Now what can I do to put my own twist on it, or what words should I use to like describe my feelings on this, that kind of thing. And I think if you're worried still about not knowing how to start from there, I think there are a lot of other writers who give a lot better advice than I do, so I would say honestly just seek out YouTube videos on like how to write. I highly recommend Jenna Moreci. She's a indie author who has written books, I think mostly romantasy if I remember right, and she really is the reason I'm able to indie publish, because I have watched almost all of her videos on just all kinds of writing tips. And so no, this is not endorsed by her or anything. I don't think she knows who I am, but I look up to her quite a bit, so I would recommend going over to Jenna Moreci. Her videos are witty and sometimes sometimes sarcastic and humorous, while also extremely informative. So I would highly recommend checking her out on YouTube. And yeah, really finding people like her who like walk you through kind of how to write different things, or how to write in general, how to publish as well if that's something you're interested in, and seeking out those people. You can do it via YouTube, Instagram, social media outlets, blogs, So yeah, I recommend finding people who inspire you, who write, and kind of following along with their journey, support them, and also learn more about like how they do what they do, because I think that's another form of inspiration that'll really help, not just media, but actual people who have done the kind of writing that you want to do, or doesn't even have to be like the same genre or whatever. Just find people who inspire you and learn from them is, I guess, kind of the summary of that, is what I'd say. Because yeah, for me, Jenna Moreci and S, Kincaid are the authors who really got me into writing and publishing. So yeah, so I'll always recommend them for like anybody who wants to learn more about writing and publishing. And yeah, and I always find more authors that I'm inspired by all the time, and getting into the indie publishing community is amazing, because pretty much any indie author you'll find online is super supportive of other indie authors, and if they're not, we don't know them, but anyway, I don't know, actually. I haven't seen many indie authors who are not supportive of other indie authors. We are not in competition. We are all here to uplift and support each other. So also, speaking of, if you'd like to share in the comments about your work in progress, or thoughts on like what you plan on writing or something like that, feel free to do so. Just because, like, if you want a place to just kind of to vent about like your awesome writing, please feel free to do so, because I very much love talking about my own writing, and I'm sure other people do too. So I want this to be a nice space for that if you'd like. And yeah, I will engage with the comments, because I mean, I have time, I don't have many comments on these videos anyway, so yeah, I still respond to every comment. So every comment that I see, I will note that, just as a heads up, because YouTube kind of hides comments from me that are nice comments, and I don't find them until later, and I really have to dig to look for them, and it's weird that I have to dig to look for them. But just as a heads up, if your comment doesn't get responded to soon, then I'm sorry about that. It's probably because YouTube will not let me see it. Yeah, anyway, bit of a digression there, but on top of that, if you have people in your life who you can talk to about your book, that is also, or your short story, whatever, you get what I'm saying, your writing. If you have people you can talk to in your life about your writing, I recommend doing it. It helps to think out loud, I think, for me at least, to work through different parts of your book. Like if you're trying to think of a way to resolve something in the plot, or you want to add more depth to a character or something, it helps to talk aloud about it. Bonus points if you find like a writing buddy, and I'd say social media is a pretty good place to go looking for people, especially if you want to find people to meet in person. I will say I've not tried that before, meeting in person with other writer buddies. I do think I want to someday, but right now in this current United States climate, I'm a little bit not feeling the most safe as a they-them user in Texas, so I might not go out and about all that much. Yeah, unless I happen to find a safe space, to do so, to talk with fellow writers. But yeah, if you can find a safe space to do so, to talk with writers, that's definitely, I highly recommend, because you get to talk about your own writing, you get to listen to other people talk about their writing, you get to get inspired, you get to help people figure out plot points, you get to receive help on your plot points. It's great. Yeah, and so I highly recommend, because it's very, what's the word? It feels good. So, yeah, so I recommend you do that. I said this wasn't going to be an advice video, and yet here I am. I'm pretty sure I'm pretty much giving advice the entire time. Part of it is that I don't feel like I'm at a point where I feel confident giving advice. I mean, I do. Let me try to restate that. I have enough self-doubt in me that it feels like part of me's going, why am I giving advice? But at the same time, I think while I don't think I can give advice on like publishing, I do feel like I can give advice on writing, because that is something that I have done for several years, and I've gotten to the point where I feel comfortable and confident in finding at least a new stage of efficiency in my writing, to where I feel like I'm having the most fun than I have in years, that I have had in years. So I think that's why I feel like this video, I was kind of debating, should I do it, should I not? But with, this week being the Encourage a Young Writer Day, and I think that day is specifically supposed to be for, like, kids, but I also like the interpretation that it's a young writer, as in a new writer, as well. So, at least I'm taking inspiration on that for this video. And while I debated back and forth on whether I should do it, I'm hoping that at least it provides some validations on what you're maybe thinking, or some assurance. Because I also saw a post today that really assured me about publishing, and so I thought it would actually be really cool to pay it forward of giving like validation on, or assurances about writing. And maybe one day I'll do something with publishing after a few books or something, we'll see. And yeah, I really hope that you feel supported as a writer, and even if you don't have anybody who's like in person in your life who supports your writing, I hope you continue with it, because it takes a while to find community, I think, and to find people you really connect with, online or in person. And it's especially hard depending on where you are in the world and the current political climate wherever you are. And there's a lot of dangerous places right now, and it's just, writing is so important for expressing your creativity, and also as a form of expressing that you are here, you exist, you are a person, you are important. That's just super important. So I hope you remember that, and I hope you remember that your writing is important. I don't care what other people say, if they try to say, why are you writing, or it's not a lucrative career, or whatever. By the way, that's a lie. But yeah, it takes time, sure, but to really figure out how you want to write, or how you want to publish, if you want to do that. But just, I really hope that nobody makes you feel like you have to stop writing, or that you can't write, or that your writing is no good, because you have a place in this world, in this universe. You are a writer, alright? If you write, you are a writer. I don't care if you write like 200 words a day, if that. I don't care if you don't write every day. I don't care if you don't read every day. I don't care if you barely write at any point in the year. I don't care if it's like a 5,000 word burst on one day and then weeks go by before you write again. You know, you are a writer if you write. Okay? So, I just hope you remember that, you know? And again, there is an audience for everything. So, even if one person says they don't like your book, there's gonna be somebody else who does. One person says your short story just is weird. There's gonna be another person who says your short story is weird in the most wonderful way ever. So I just hope you keep going. Alright? Okay. Alright, I better maybe not keep going talking, just because I'll probably be talking all night if I keep this up, right? I imagine I have more to say, but I can always save it for another video, right? It's okay. I appreciate you listening so much. And it's okay also if you closed your eyes and fell asleep at some point in this. That's perfectly fine. So, yeah, and if you happen to be still listening now, again, feel free to comment about your writing. I will 100% support you. So long as I see your comment, please, YouTube, do not fail me. Yeah. If you need somebody to hype you up for your writing, like, feel free to come into my comments. I'm very open to all kinds of writing, you know? So, I mean, as long as you're not, you know, hating on people, you know, that, I think you get what I mean when I say that. So, yeah. Alright. Thank you again for listening. You are a wonderful listener. And that includes if you are unconscious. So, alright. Yeah. I hope you have a good night or day. Or whenever, wherever you are. I hope that this helped you in one way or another. And also, if there's anything else you want me to talk about specifically about writing, let me know. I'm also happy to talk publishing as well, but I probably won't make a publishing video just on its own unless, or just for now. If somebody wants me to, though, I can. Yeah, so feel free to ask questions if you want about writing or stuff. Again, this is more so an affirmations thing. Oh, and speaking of, if you want me to specifically say any kind of affirmations, because I've seen some videos online of ASM artists who, like, they have, like, affirmation videos. So if there are any specific phrases related to, like, being a writer or writing that you'd like me to say, I might do a video like that. So feel free to let me know about that as well. So yeah. Okay. For real this time, I'll stop talking. Alright. Thank you again.